Peter had just received the greatest compliment any human being had ever received from Jesus. Less than 1 minute later, Jesus called him Satan. No warning, no pause between them, same conversation, same breath. You have to walk 25 miles north with them, out of Galilee into pagan land. 13 men are walking, dust on their sandals. Greek names, pagan shrines. It's not their country anymore. Nobody talks much on this stretch of road. They don't know why they're here, only that Jesus wanted them here. They stop at the base of a cliff, red rock, rising like a wall. A black mouth of a cave, dropping down into darkness. Nobody here has ever found the bottom of it. Locals call it the gate. You can hear water moving somewhere underneath the rock, invisible, going nowhere you can see. The kind of sound that makes you lower your voice without deciding to. For generations they threw goats alive into that opening, offerings to a god of wild places. Something dark lives underneath the earth, and that you can reach it if you find the right hole in the ground. This town has a name, Caesarea Philippi. Half for Caesar, half for the ruler who rebuilt it, Herod Philip. A town that exists to remind you who is actually in charge. Coins here carry the emperor's face. Temples here hold a crowd of gods, Roman, Greek, and the wild old god of that cave. Whatever power runs, the universe lives in that hole in the rock. It is here that Jesus stops walking and asks a question. Who do people say the Son of Man is? The disciples give safe answers. John the Baptist, Elijah, Jeremiah. But who do you say I am? Each one hoping someone else speaks first. Peter is the one who never waits to be called on. No reason to be the one who answers. But he does. You are the Christ, the Son of the living God. Say that where Rome can hear you, and it isn't just theology, it's treason. Silence. For a moment, nobody moves. The other men straightening up like their friend just won something for all of them. Standing in a town built to make that answer sound ridiculous. Jesus blesses him for it. Tells him this wasn't something he figured out on his own. Tells him this is a rock the church will stand on. Tells him the gates of that underworld behind them will never win. Everything should have ended there, but it didn't. Minutes later, same afternoon, same patch of ground. Jesus starts explaining what being the Christ is actually going to cost him. Jerusalem, suffering at the hands of the elders and the chief priests, death. And on the third day, life again. No parables this time, no riddles, just the words plain. The way you say something, or people you love when there's no time left to soften it. Peter pulls him aside, not in front of the others. The way you'd pull a friend away to stop them from making a mistake in public. Never, Lord, he says, this shall never happen to you. This isn't rebellion. This is love wearing the mask of certainty. Sons of the living God do not get nailed to Roman wood. In Peter's mind, both things cannot be true. Fear of losing the person he loves most in the world. And Jesus turns. Mark's version tells us he looked at the other disciples first. Meaning what comes next isn't just for Peter, it's for all of them. Get behind me, Satan. You are a stumbling block to me. You do not have in mind the concerns of God, but merely human concerns. Wait, say that again? The same mouth that just spoke the truest sentence anyone had ever spoken about Jesus. Rebuked by name as the adversary, not a stranger, not an enemy soldier, the rock. The one who just got blessed. You would have felt the temperature of the conversation drop before you understood why. This is a good time to hit subscribe, because now we need the evidence. In the Greek text, that word is satanas. It meant adversary, accuser, the one standing on the wrong side of a courtroom. The one standing on the wrong side of a courtroom. It comes with a definite article, the Satan, like a job title, not a name tag. Jesus is not necessarily saying Peter is possessed by the devil in this sentence. Peter is functioning as the opposition, standing on the wrong side of the table from a plan he claims to believe in, without knowing he's done it. Read that sentence again with this in mind, and it stops sounding like an insult. It starts sounding like a warning label. Really? Two other men on this same road, James and John, bring their mother to Jesus with a request. Grant that these two sons of mine may sit, one at your right hand and one at your left, in your kingdom. He takes it seriously enough to tell them patiently that they don't know what they're asking.
Same instinct, grab the glory, skip the suffering.
Peter didn't invent this. Peter just said it first, loud enough to get answered directly. Get behind me. In the Greek, hypage or pisomou is almost the same phrase Jesus used the day he first called Peter away from his nets. Come follow me, same words behind me.
This isn't banishment, it's a correction of position. For one dangerous moment, Peter climbed into the leader's chair.
Jesus is putting him back where a disciple stands. The difference between a door slammed in your face and a hand on your shoulder turning you back around. Jesus calls Peter's protest a scandalon, a stumbling block, the root of our English word, scandal. It was the trigger stick of an animal trap, hidden under the bait, waiting for the one step that looks the safest. Every human being who ever needed forgiveness would have stepped on a trap disguised as good advice. Advice that felt entirely like love and would have been a quiet disaster if the person you loved had actually taken it. The historian Josephus, writing in the 1st century, confirms the kind of town this was. Rebuilt by Herod Philip, renamed for the empire, built on layers of worship stacked on top of each other. The church historian Eusebius, quoting an even earlier writer named Papias, records that the Gospel of Mark preserves Peter's own preaching, close to word for word as Peter told it. This, the moment Peter looked worst, probably reached the page because Peter himself refused to leave it out. This is not a story about one man's flaw. This is not a story about a single failed moment that defines a friendship.
A victory without a cross, a kingdom without a Friday when everything looks over.
Jesus walked toward Jerusalem anyway. The way you walk toward a door you already know is going to hurt to open. Arrested at night in a garden while the men who swore they would die for him ran into the dark. Tried before priests who wanted him silenced, and a governor who wanted no part of the decision. Soldiers pressed thorns into his scalp and mocked him with a purple robe, nailed to a cross on a hill outside the city walls. From noon until 3 that afternoon, the Gospels agree on one detail. The sky went dark in the middle of the day. The exact ending Peter begged him months earlier to never let happen. Just before he dies, he says one more thing. It is finished. Remember the cave. Remember the gate the locals believed led down into the underworld. The gates of Hades will not overcome it. Jesus dies, body wrapped in linen. Sealed behind stone. Friday looked final. Saturday felt like silence. If the gates of Hades were ever going to win, this was the moment. The stone is rolled away, and the tomb behind it is empty. The gate that could not be overcome was never the cave outside Caesarea Philippi. It was death itself. Picture the disciples getting that news, running to check for themselves, unable to believe it until they saw the folded grave clothes with their own eyes. John gets there first.
Peter is the one who goes inside.
Jesus walked out through it on his own feet, exactly the way he said he would, back when Peter couldn't bear to hear it.
He was wrong about what defeat actually was.
Watched someone you loved walk toward a decision you couldn't stop, and felt this exact tension in your chest.
Imagine you are a parent and your child is walking towards something you know is dangerous.
Every instinct wants to grab them, pull them back, hand them a safer road. The most loving thing you can say is no. Love them enough to let the harder road happen. Jesus loved Peter too much to let Peter's fear write the ending. Grateful for it only years later, once you could finally see what it had protected you from.
Simon, Simon, Satan has asked to sift you as wheat, but I have prayed for you that your faith may not fail.
This time not as a sentence, but as a night. The night Peter denies even knowing Jesus. 3 times, before a servant girl and a charcoal fire. And Peter fails, exactly as predicted, weeps bitterly over it by his own account. But that's not where his story ends. After the resurrection, on a beach beside another charcoal fire, the risen Jesus asks him the same question 3 times. Do you love me?
Ankles in the cold water, the smell of fish and smoke in the morning air.
Years of friendship folded into 3 short questions.
One answer for each denial.
Deny, restore, feed my sheep.
Spoken by the same voice across the same kind of fire.
Not every disciple's resistance ended this way. Judas resisted too, in his own way, on his own timeline. There was no fireside restoration, no third chance by the water. Peter failed loudly in front of everyone more than once.
He stayed close enough to be found.
The moment you loved someone so much, you told them not to do the very thing that would end up saving them.
What it feels like to be loved enough to be corrected. On a road that started at a gate to the underworld.
He'd wandered onto the wrong side of a table he never meant to sit at. The one that looks like defeat before it becomes anything else. The same voice that said, "Get behind me," is the same voice that later said, "Feed my sheep." Correction was never the end of the relationship. It was the doorway back into it.